Hey everybody, welcome back to Video Game Esoterica and our continuing series, Halloween Horror, where we take a look at some of my favorite horror gaming experiences of all time. And we're starting Layers of Fear with a quote from Oscar Wilde about the picture of Dorian Gray. And if you've never seen that painting before, I suggest you look it up after you've watched this video, because it does tie into the story ever so slightly. And it is hanging at the Art Institute in downtown Chicago, and it's a painting that I always stop and look at for at least 5 minutes when I go. But outside of that little digression, this game is absolutely outstanding. It definitely hits the walking simulator genre of horror games, but as you're going through here, you'll see we find this note about pest control and rats, and throughout the game you're going to find different notes or different items that are going to kind of inform the story of what's going on. But at the base level, without giving you too many spoilers, you are a painter who is having a little bit of a bad mental day, as in you're having a descent into complete and utter madness. But it all takes place in this house. And you'll see here that we found another note on the door about the housekeeper having lost the keys to his study. So the first thing we know is we need to find those keys. But as far as how this game works, this house looks like pretty much any other house. Granted, it doesn't look like my house, it looks like a very rich person's house, but there's nothing about it that seems otherworldly. And we see we have another note here, just kind of establishing the characters, the painter, and his relationship with his wife and his daughter, which is going to devolve as the game goes on. But as the horror element starts to build into this game, this house is going to transform and morph into something that makes absolutely zero sense. It plays with spatial awareness and expectations of what's going to be next, and I think in that respect, it does an absolutely excellent job. And I do love all the little art design touches, the lighting, the paintings on the wall, the lightning coming through the windows. Bloober Team has done a great job in making an atmosphere in this game that feels absolutely natural, and you heard that kind of slamming noise right there. The game plays really well with its audio design, and I highly recommend you play this on a 5.1 surround sound system, or at least a really nice pair of headphones, so you can get the overall kind of soundscape of the game, because it does an excellent job. And that piano crashing jump scare definitely got me the first time for sure. And it's interesting, Bloober Team made this game and it kind of came out of nowhere. The company had made games before, but none of them were reviewed very well at all. And then suddenly they use this walking simulator genre with a horror game, and it becomes transcendent. It becomes a company that you want to know what they're doing next. And this game does have a sequel, Layers of Fear 2. It is quite good, but I would say the original is best. And you'll see here that there was a little fire at an opening, and fire is going to play a large role in this game as far as the story is concerned. But I appreciate the fact that you have to navigate the environment and find these items to be able to give you more story. And you can definitely go through the game and miss some things, and on further playthroughs be able to access even more of the story, because it does have multiple endings. And as far as how the game is concerned, each playthrough is slightly different, so there is an incentive to be able to play through it. But now that we're going into this large study here, I just love how it looks. I can actually envision this being a real room in an estate somewhere, maybe in Massachusetts on the waterfront. But you're going to see here we find the key to the office and a note saying that someone's sorry and that they'll make it up to them, and they promised. And part of the foundational story of this is his decaying relationship with his wife. But we find this note here from his publisher, who had commissioned some drawings for a children's book, and he is quite upset as what he's gotten. He's saying that it's nightmare fuel and he had wanted illustrations for kids. And you can kind of tell from this that the painter's mindset is going to a darker place. It's not as light and airy as it used to be. Although I will say the drawings look pretty awesome, and I'd read that as a kid's book, but I grew up in an era where scary stories to read alone in the dark existed, and those illustrations were absolutely terrifying, so maybe I'm just impartial to that. But I do love how the story kicks off before the haunting, as it were, starts to happen. You can already tell that there's something not quite right with him. And it's that classic trope of an, kind of a afflicted artist, maybe a drinking problem, maybe a drug problem, maybe mental issues. We've romanticized the idea of artists being their best when they are troubled, and this game definitely runs with that. And as we open up his painting studio, you will hear the clock behind us chime, and that is a very common thing that they do in games. It's just giving you an audio cue that something is changing. And while his studio may look pretty dirty, I can envision it being the studio of any painter. Granted, I did get a fine art degree, but it's in film, so I don't have paint everywhere. I don't know how to paint anything. But you can definitely tell it's not a clean room, which means it's not an organized mind that he has, but it's not too strange compared to what you would expect. But as you take the sheet down off the canvas, this is when the game truly starts. You get that audio cue, And as you open up the door behind the painting, you're going to notice something has changed, because we came in through a hallway with the kitchen on the other side and the stairs going upstairs to your left. And now suddenly we're in a completely different hallway. And this game bends and distorts reality and spatial awareness in some incredible ways. You can never trust what's behind the door in front of you. You can never trust that the door you came in will lead to the same place that you came from. And as you see here out the window, that window slams, and it got me so bad the first time I played it. But all of a sudden you went from this house where out the windows were trees and grass, you now have a dark alley and a dead end. But as you come back through the door, suddenly you're in a completely different area of the game. And each time you play this, you will get different hallways, you'll get different environments. The main story beats or cues will always be the same, but the way you interact with them, the way you experience them is going to be completely different. And from a puzzle perspective, this game does have a few. You're going to see very quickly what one of them are, but you're never going to get stuck in a situation where you spend 30 minutes trying to figure out what the hell you're supposed to do next. It is fair in its puzzles. It's more of a walking simulator experience than it is a puzzle game. Then you get this little bit of ephemera, save the date with the name scrubbed out. And then you'll see here, this safe or trunk has a padlock on it, and we need to find the numbers. And if we come over here, you will see that light switches and candles, you can interact with them. And as you turn the light on, suddenly the paint starts to morph from these paintings, and you have the code 548. I'll let you listen to this next bit for 30 seconds. I'll be right back, but you want to hear the story.
The thought alone that the most beautiful piece of art doesn't have my name on it is killing me. So, will you marry me?
There's something in his voice, even though he's asking his girlfriend to marry him, that just sounds absolutely evil. And as the game goes on, it'll get worse and worse. And you'll see over that door there, it said never forget. And as you come into this room, there's a rocking chair moving on its own. All classic horror tropes, but really effective. But now he finds out that someone's been snooping around in his workshop again, and you can tell just how much he cares for his privacy. And that's going to become a bigger and bigger event in the game, just what made him angry about his family, because his family isn't going to have a happy ending, as it were. But I highly recommend you play the game and get the whole story, because I'm not going to spoil much more than just showing you the beginning of the game, the first third, and suddenly we fall through a floor. And that's going to be something that occurs again, and that's the big takeaway, is that this house just changes itself in ways that make no sense. And you're seeing that he's got mice in the walls, or he thinks he has mice on the walls or running up his leg, and it just gets so strange. And as we walk over here and turn the light switch on and turn around, suddenly that painting has completely moved, and then this happens. And it does a great job of playing with your mind, because in the story, your character's mind is completely unreliable. You can't trust what he's remembering. You can't trust what he's thinking. He's clearly addled in some way or another, whether it's from alcohol or drug abuse or just a descent into badness. The house mirrors that, and I think it does a really effective job of being able to show you these type of things. And you have this trapdoor here that leads right back into the room you came from, and it's just a fun experience because you can never really know what's around the corner, and you're always waiting for the next jump scare, the next little bit of story. And you do have to open drawers, you do have to examine the environment, and it does let up on the horror long enough so that you're able to get enough of what you need from the game to be able to see what's going on and get that story. Now, there is a monster or a ghost in the game, and you can technically die, but it is a zero consequence sum. And that knife definitely almost got us, and now there's a brick wall where the spices used to be. But there is some danger in the game, but it's more of an experience than it is a challenge. If you die, your character just comes right back where they were before, and you continue on. There is no end game event where you're going to see you lost, you were dead. It just keeps going. And that painting is now just crapping out onions, which, I mean, from a free food perspective, sounds great. From an actual environmental perspective, if my kitchen started doing that, I would be moving tomorrow. But what I'm going to let you do now is watch a little bit more of the game without me talking about it, because I want you to hear it, I want you to experience it, and you'll see here that we pick up a piece of flesh, and he's starting to make his canvas out of parts from humans. But enjoy. I'll be back in just a minute, but listen to it, experience it, and we'll come back and close out the video in just a bit.
Sharp as a razor. So I used a razor, in fact, and then carefully flayed the skin, Booze helped keep my hands steady.
Whatever was going on in that room was definitely not good, but as you go further throughout the story, you're going to see the house start to decay, and it's kind of emulating his descent into madness. As your character becomes madder and crazier, the house starts to devolve around him. There's holes in the walls, boards are coming up, there's fires, you can fall through decrepit areas, and I really appreciate how the environment changes along with the story. And you'll hear now that there's a phone ringing somewhere, and if you come over towards the sound, we find a book and another secret passage. I kind of wish my house had all these secret passages. It would be way more fun than what it really is, but we do need to be able to pick that phone up now, so just listen very quickly, and I'll come back in about 10 seconds.
Talk to me! Why won't you talk to me?
Clearly, him and his wife are having very large issues, but now we're faced with one more puzzle. We need to figure out what to do in this room, because if you try the door, you are trapped, and you need to be able to escape from this room in some way or another. And I do really like how the game plays with the puzzles, but you definitely should play this game. It's absolutely excellent, and Bloober Team has some other great games, including Layers of Fear 2, so I highly recommend that you do pick them up and play them, and they're great for Halloween. I played this game with my wife, and we had a ton of fun. But short of that, that is Layers of Fear. It's an absolutely incredible horror game that plays around with the concepts of artistic madness and spaces that don't really exist in a way that I've never seen before. And now you'll see we have the code on that painting right there, 363. And as we enter that into the phone, something is going to change very dramatically in this room, kind of setting off the back 2/3 of the game. We really appreciate you guys watching. If you could do us a huge favor, go down below and hit like and subscribe. It takes us a lot of time and energy to make these videos, and now suddenly we're in an MC Escher painting with walls and doors that make no sense. But we will be back next Tuesday with an episode in our horror series, and we'll have videos on Friday and Sunday as well. But if you have any questions or comments, leave them in the comments below. I love talking to you guys about this and not talking into an echo chamber. But like I said, I can't recommend you play this game enough. It's weird, it's strange, and it really tells the story that I think hasn't really been shown in gaming so much before, and I think you should definitely check it out. If you played it, let me know in the comments. Thanks so much for watching. We'll see you guys next time. I wonder what's up that infinite hallway. Bye-bye.